Okay, allow me to chair the meeting Wednesday, August 25th of the Fall River Redevelopment Authority. Time's 5 o'clock. I'd like to call to order, but prior to that, I'd like to make a statement. The open meeting law statement says, pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made whether perceived or unperceived by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. We're also being recorded by Fred TV, so we are aware that this meeting is being recorded by Fall River Educational TV. We'll start with a roll call, starting with me, Joe Marshall.
Louis Gonzalez.
Johnny Erickson.
And Ann Keene.
Okay, and Joan Medeiros will be here. She did call. She's just running a little late. Participating also is Sarah Page, our Executive Director, and John Coughlin, our Counsel. The first item on the agenda is the approval of open meeting session minutes from July 28, 2021. Everyone received these, as I did. Is there any discussion, omissions, or deletions from those minutes, or is there a motion to accept?
I move we accept the July 28th meeting minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
I second that.
Second by Luis. All in favor, aye. Anyone opposed? So moved. Welcome, Ms. Medeiros.
Yep.
Relax. Okay. Oh, Peter, we just moved you up. So we're, and first order of business is request for a modification of land disposition agreement for 589 Commerce Drive, Fall River. Here, Peter, you want to state your name?
Yes, for purposes of the record, my name is Peter Solino. I'm a lawyer with offices at 550 Locust Street here in Fall River.
And property owner?
Property owner is Crown Commercial Property LLC, which is my client.
Right.
This is Mike Dyson, who's the Chief Operating Officer of McKell, Incorporated, who is the tenant at the property.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So we have the potential vote, right, on that?
Well, we need to know a lot more before
That's
we
why
can
Peter's
have
Yeah,
a vote.
right. And my
Please.
premise here is to just give you the background,
Please.
and then Mike's going to speak to the operation.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
so the historical background is as follows. Crown Commercial Properties purchased the subject location at 589 Commerce Drive in 2006. The grantor in the deed was your organization, and as was commonplace at that time, or even required by your charter, there was a land disposition agreement. And the key component of the land disposition agreement was that my client was supposed to develop 95,000 square feet of building space on the site. Again, 2006, and it was conceptual, effectively. Mm-hmm. And now here we are on the ground, and 95,000 square feet of building does not make a lot of sense for job growth or creation. It would create a large warehouse that would employ very few people. So as a result, McKell has been a tenant for about a year. They have a 5-year lease with an option to purchase, but fundamental to their desire to purchase is to be able to build an additional building on the site, which, based on the map that was passed out by your executive director, would be the wooded area to the east. In other words, where the letters MERCE Drive are on this map. Mm-hmm. And the proposal would be such that the building area would only be about 76,000 square feet, which would be a clear violation of the LDA because we'd be short by, give or take, 20,000 square feet.
Sorry, Peter, how many square feet was it?
It would be 76,000 total. So there are currently 2 buildings on the site, and with the addition of the 3rd building, the aggregate building area would be about 76,000, okay? So we have a shortage there, and my client and the tenant believe that the best option for the site is actually not to build a huge warehouse which employs few people, but rather we have this very unique opportunity, and to me, being from here, I think this is extremely unique for the city as far as the caliber of the operation and the type of jobs. And so that's why Mike's here, to speak about what his company does, who they do it for, and the pay rates and types of employees that they hire. And so with that, I'd like to just turn it over to Mike, and he can run you through what they do. I had a site walk today, and I was very impressed, having done a lot of site walks in the city. The operation is really, it's unique. So go ahead, Mike.
Thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us today. And Michael Inc. is a small woman-owned business. Our primary customer is the Navy. So we're a defense contractor. Our business is broken into two components. We provide engineering services to the base in Newport, and we're a manufacturer of electronic components used primarily by the submarine fleet. So the primary use of our facility here in Fall River is the design, programming, assembly, and servicing of what is probably in layman's terms best described as an underwater GPS system. So when we take a look at our submarine force, when they're in contested waters coming to the surface to get a location fix for the purposes of their mission, the ability to stay undetected becomes jeopardized. So we have created a device that's roughly 20 inches in diameter. It's a glass sphere, and there's an electronics package in that sphere that talks to the submarine acoustically, and it gives the submarine an ability to recalibrate its position. So very, very high end, and there's really three main components to this. One is the software that resides on the submarine. So we have a lot of algorithm programmers and computer scientists that work on that aspect. The actual physical hardware requires us to basically design and source domestically all the internal components, which clearly is a challenge with some of the supply chain issues. And ultimately what we do is we marry the software with that electronics to provide a encoded message that can only be detected by US or NATO allies for that purpose of positioning. This is a product that is taking off, if you will. Originally we were producing this in a lab space that was under 1,000 square feet. We're currently occupying the 21,000 square foot facility in the park, and we anticipate needing to grow that facility in the next 3 to maybe 5 years, probably sooner rather than later. As the U.S. Navy adopts this technology, there's obviously a need to continue to evolve it and create different variants for some of our allied navies and basically continue to improve its overall performance. So it's a vital program for the U.S. Navy, and we're very, very proud of the mission that it serves. And helping the warfighters stay undetected is paramount. And so as a business, we have over 240 employees split between Fall River and Middletown, Rhode Island. And our intent is eventually to migrate our corporate office to the location here in Fall River. The staff that we employ range from some of the most talented sonar engineers that are veterans of the U.S. submarine fleet. A really large portion of our employee base are veterans, largely because of their experience with this very limited technology. We have what I would characterize as some of the most talented individuals. We work very closely with UMass Dartmouth and help support some of the doctoral candidates that are studying there in the field of acoustics. And so we have PhD engineers, electrical engineers, software engineers that are employed. The folks that are what I would consider on the production floor are removing and replacing components on the board level on very, very sophisticated printed circuit boards and then testing them. So, in comparison to our neighbors that perhaps are doing warehouse work and have a low density of population within the building, our facility is probably outpacing those facilities salary-wise anywhere between 2 and 5 to 1. So the level of talent that we're attracting to that area is notable. The density of our employees right now, we're probably about 20 folks. The goal is to be in the 60s and potentially higher, up to 100 if we get to that building in the rear. And so one of the challenges for us is making sure that the distribution between parking for those people and the actual square footage in the facility matches the need. In order to put up a total of 95,000 square feet, it would greatly diminish our ability to park all of the people that we plan on putting in those facilities. And so the request here is really to consider what is the highest and best use for that space, not only in terms of the employment, but the caliber of the people that we employ there, and changing that ratio a little bit so that it can accommodate that type of use.
Quick question for me. Physically, you're at 589 Commerce Drive now, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
There are 2 buildings there at 589, though.
Yeah.
Are you only in one?
So we only occupy 589. The building adjacent
Yeah.
is 599.
Oh, okay.
It is currently being leased by Homans, which is a HVAC distribution outlet. And part of the option to buy is we want to be able to, A, control that property in the back so that we can eventually create the corporate campus that we envision. And so leaving it sort of up in the air and waiting for sort of a future determination as to who builds what there is not appealing to us.
Did you start off at the ATMC here in Fall River? Where did you begin?
Sure, that's a great question. Our founder worked for the Navy at the base.
Okay.
Our first office was here in Fall River, and it was a 5-person small space. So it was born from the Navy, and
Okay.
our tie to the veterans are pretty tight there.
But I think you're thinking of Ocean Server.
Yeah, I
And
was
that's-
thinking of a similar, because I recall someone starting
Right.
there.
Yes, that was a different
All right.
operation.
So Mike, is it a separate building, or is it in addition to the existing building?
It would be a third building.
Yeah, so currently, the dot, if you will, in your diagram represents the building we're currently in.
Right.
The building just below that is the Homans facility, which is the HVAC distributor. The third building is unrelated to the project.
Right, so the top one, you're going to add on to the building, or a separate 4th building? in this
No,
picture?
so the nature of our work requires compartmentalization for various security reasons. So it would not be our intent to add to the building, but to create a separate standalone structure.
Johnny, these 2 buildings
Right.
are on the site. The third is going in this open space.
Yeah.
This one is a neighboring building that has nothing to
Right,
do with the site.
okay.
So there'll be 3 total.
To the right.
And the way the land disposition agreement read in 2006
Right.
was it said they could build anywhere from 1 to 3 buildings and approximately 95,000 square feet. It was kind of a placeholder.
Yep.
So they're building the third building, they're just not gonna go as big as 95, they wanna go to about 75. So
But
that's
it was up to, John, right? Up
It-
to 96,000?
No, it just said approximately.
Approximately,
I think it
okay.
was just, they were trying to see how much space you could fit on the site.
Okay.
And kind of come up with a number at the time without knowing what would be built. So at the end of the day, there's still 3 buildings being built.
Sure.
It's just the total square footage of the buildings is gonna be 76 instead of 95. But
Okay.
other than that, the site is the site, and it's similar to the original.
All right. Well, let me ask, what's the intent as far as job creation? If you build this, what's your thought?
Yeah, so we're currently at 20 employees at that location. The
Okay.
hope is to relocate our corporate offices to the existing building and bring that up to probably 45. And then adding that additional building will probably bring us up to the 60 to 75 employee range.
Good. All right. Any other questions?
So I'm a little confused about the fact that we're talking about 589, but this other building that's 599 is part of this same
Cluster.
piece of property, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So my client owns the entirety of that triangular piece of property. And under the LDA, they have the right to build 3 buildings. So they built 2. And so, yeah, it's all part of that property.
Yep.
But that's occupied, not.
Not by
Right,
them.
by
Yeah.
Holman's.
And I can also speak to the 95,000 square feet. So my client is a developer, and we had a site walk this afternoon, and he said that with Joe Raposa, he just kind of went through and said, what's the max I could get here? And so in developer terms, that's a yield plan. It's what's the biggest and best thing I can do. And so he went for that, thinking he could always ask for less, but it'd be tougher to ask for more.
That is correct.
Yep.
So that's where the 95 came from. But it wasn't, by his own admission, it wasn't a well-thought-out 95. It was just, what's the biggest I can go?
But there was a purpose.
Right.
My question is, they said that they want to bring the, eventually a full campus here, right?
That's correct, yes.
Now, will the full campus be that building in the parcel to the right? Or will they be looking at expanding in the future?
Yeah, so meaning, would you include this too, or would you keep that leased? And
Yeah, so for the time being, having that leased is advantageous. It's a placeholder, if you will.
Sure.
We would prefer to build the 3rd building prior to occupying that existing building, which we call 599.
Yep.
So for the purposes of the addition, that building would need to be purpose-built, right? So it would have to meet certain criteria for the cleanliness and the type of work that we would do there. To take the 599 building, which is really a warehouse, and make it meet those standards would probably be too big a challenge today. But we'd like the opportunity to have that flexibility. Obviously, multi-location facilities are a challenge to operate. And so it's really that safety valve depending on the future growth. And right now, we do our capital budget planning in the 5 to 7 year range. And at that point, we see the potential for that 3rd building out back long before we would want to disrupt the tenant and then have to do a major upfit of that building to meet our needs.
You good with that?
Yeah.
So your business plan, I think you said it, but I'll say it again for my benefit, is once that building is built, according to the specifications you're required to do business, the intent is to move it to whatever you have in Middletown to this location.
So it's really a combination of 2 things.
Okay.
There is a growth taking place in that product line that's going to,
You'll need it.
I need that
You need the
space
space.
to do that work.
Okay.
Right now, a lot of our employees in Middletown are based on the Navy facility, and they transit back and forth to our office. So our office in Middletown is roughly about 7,000 square feet. It's not very large. So the intent is to bring the corporate function to this location and continue to reduce that footprint in Middletown. There'll always be a need to have an office there for onboarding and HR and all those tasks. But when I refer to the campus, I really refer to the lion's share of our business operation.
Understood. Are there any other questions? Joe?
No.
Okay. Do you have any other questions of us, I should say?
I do not.
No?
You know, we'd love to invite the board to come take a tour and see the vision that we have.
We'd like to do that. I'd like to do that.
And, you know, certainly, we'll be approaching the city to talk about, you know, permitting for some of the office expansion, so on and so forth.
Good.
And, you know, we want to be a good community resident and, you know, contribute, and that's really been our mantra since the beginning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mike, how do you spell the name of the company?
Mikel.
M-I-K-E.
Michael, yeah.
Which I believe is a blend of the.
It's a blend of Michael and Kelly, the two owners. So.
Like a TV show.
Well, unless there's any further discussion, we should possibly take a vote authorizing me.
Yeah, Joe, I think,
Unless you wanna-
based on their presentation, I
Yeah.
think if somebody wants to make a motion, it would be to authorize the chair to execute an amendment to the land disposition agreement.
Right.
To allow for the construction of up to 3 buildings on the site for approximately 76,000 square feet.
Does anyone
That
have
would do it.
to?
Does that sound all right, Peter?
Does that sound?
That sounds great.
All right.
Okay, so then I would move that to authorize the chairman to execute an amendment to the previous agreement.
Land disposition.
What?
Land disposition.
Land disposition.
To allow for 3 buildings of approximately 76,000.
Right, to be specific.
To
what John
allow for
said.
3 buildings for a total of approximately 76,000 square feet.
Okay. All right, that's the motion. Is there a second? to that?
Second.
Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that's it. We just have to sign.
Thank you very much.
We
So-
appreciate it.
No, thank you.
And
we'll
do
take
you
up
want to
on that.
arrange a tour?
What's that?
Do you want to arrange a tour?
Yes, yes.
How should Mike reach out to you?
Well, you know what? Reach out to Sarah,
Okay.
and Sarah can kind of coordinate it for us, right?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay with that? Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, that'd be great,
I'll
Mike.
give you my
Thank you.
card.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much for your time.
No, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I was excited. Like I said, the walkthrough was neat today. So.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks all.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming. Okay, next item is the approval of the warrants. And we have those before you, or had those before you. Is there any discussion?
I move we
Good night.
accept the warrant from August, well, I guess it would be today, August 25th.
Yes. You make a motion to accept it? Is that what you said?
I did.
I heard you. Second, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Luis, I'm sorry. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, so moved.
We just moved it up.
Thank you. Next item is, the vote on the revised beta contract amendment for construction, for the construction period. Everyone received the information on that, and the revision indicates, or I'll entertain a vote that indicates, that the revised beta group contract amendment with a fee estimate of $222,118. Is there a vote to approve the revised contract? Or is there discussion?
I'm happy to make a motion to approve.
All right. Joan has made the motion to approve the revised contract amendment, the group contract amendment.
Second?
Second by John. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So moved. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, number 5, Pleasant Street Committee Report on Consultant Proposal. I believe our subcommittee is Luis and Joan, and you've met on this, and what is your,
Yeah, we met about a week and a half ago on this.
Yeah.
We reviewed the proposal. What ultimately happened was that some of the folks that we thought would bid individually ended up partnering on this proposal.
Ah.
And so we felt comfortable with the fact that we only had one proposal, given those facts, and we recommend to the board that we approve the proposal and move forward with Innes and Associates to do the plan
Okay.
for Pleasant Street.
All right. Is there a second? Thank you for that. Is there a second?
Second.
Johnny? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So moved. And you'll contact them and let them know, right?
I will.
Can you, Sarah, bring us up to date on the city pier, since it's fresh in your mind? The city pier,
Sure.
600 Duval Street, what happened today, and,
Well, I
What?
was kind of opening it to people just reflecting on it.
well,
I
we can
was-
do that.
I was really happy with how it went. And, you know, I have a couple of other minor updates on City Pier, but do we want to talk a little bit about how it went? We do have some kind of fun pictures that you missed that Chris took and sent me, and they're not all perfect yet, but we've got dirt
Oh, they
flying.
did, they came with a disclaimer because people are cut out and everything, so. there's a
I think I
disclaimer.
printed them wrong on my printer, and, but they're fun still.
They are.
Here's some, and then there are others.
Well, not everyone, I mean, everyone here was there, but not everyone in the public was there, so why don't you kind of just go through a summary,
Sure.
you know, for the people that weren't there?
Okay. So I actually am not sure how many people actually came, but Joe welcomed everyone, and the Lieutenant Governor spoke really enthusiastically about the pier, about Fall River and the South Coast. It was really inspiring and kind of heartwarming how much she really cares about this area and our work. And then the mayor spoke, and he talked about how exciting the city pier is. And then Representative Carol Fiola spoke, and we then had two organizations that have worked with us for a long time and have both been funders, Mass Development and Mass Department of Environmental Protection. And they've been working on this project with us for about 11 years. So there was a real sense of Ken Fiola worked on it for 20 years. One of the engineers at Beta has worked on it for 10 years. And so there was a lot of reflecting on, wow, we've been a long way, spent a lot of money, and finally we're going to have a pier that has walking paths and green spaces for all kinds of recreation, and we expect to have food truck nights, and the Narrows wants to do concerts there. So there was a real sense of celebration that we're finally at the point where we're constructing something that the whole community will enjoy.
In my discussions with Mike from MAS, who is doing the construction, he's expecting to start right after Labor Day, and was telling us that he expects to be, depending on weather, completed by June. So we may be able to enjoy that by next summer. Correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
which is really exciting.
Okay.
I think some of us are hoping he gets done before June.
Well, if the weather, he seemed motivated, and if the weather is
Yeah.
good, he said he sees no reason. Now, again, it's not going to be the finished product, because we're still talking about having boats and a few other things that could possibly go up there, but it'll be capped, things will be done, and it'll be able to be utilized.
That's right.
Yeah, so we'll be good.
So we'll have to, maybe over the winter, think about when we want to take on phase 2 of the
Correct.
docks. And so we should put that on an agenda at some point.
All right. No other comments?
Well, Joe, I just wanted to say that Friday night, they sent through the shop drawings for the railing. Did you get those?
Yeah.
Okay. And Eric, the landscape architect from Beta, who is, worked mostly on it, he's on vacation. So I spoke to the MAS guys today when we were there, and they were cool with waiting till Eric comes back on Monday or Tuesday.
Sure.
Because they wanted to get an approval tomorrow. But I told them we didn't feel comfortable without, Eric having a chance to go through them. So that's the next step, so that they can get that material released.
And I'm looking forward to talking with Johnny and Eric as well, because there just seem to be some questions about, is it being planned out exactly the way we thought? And
Okay.
we'll work on that.
Okay. All right. No other comments. The next item is the Route 79 project.
Well, I actually have one more piece on that now that we're finished with the celebration.
Oh.
I just wanted to update you on the Seaport grant. At the last meeting, Ken pointed out that he thought the Seaport grant of $1 million is a cost reimbursement grant, so that we have to send them invoices for work that's been done that falls within the grant. And so we don't see any problem with that. Ellen Sabula is the director of the Seaport Grant Program, and she was there today just thrilled, and we had a good chat. and-
Did you confirm that it's the reimbursement?
Yes.
Because sometimes it isn't. Okay.
No, it is.
Okay.
But she said that we'd work together on that,
All
and
right.
that shouldn't be any problem.
All right, good. Any other questions? Hearing none, thank you. Number 7, Route 79 project update. You want to?
Sure. So we were waiting for Ken to send us comments that we could discuss and would be sent to Mass DOT. But the more that people talked about it, the more the comments are very technical, and we have his comments, but I think we need to have some people sit with the plans and look at exactly what he's suggesting. Johnny and I were there when Mass DOT was here with huge plans, and we spent a couple of hours, and in the morning Joe and Ken were there, and I was there, and we spent another few hours, and so we learned a lot.
Well,
Yeah.
not to get off,
Uh-huh.
but that was during the briefing.
Right.
You didn't indicate that, but there was a briefing at Heritage Park about the Route 79, and that's where all this came
Right.
from. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
And we asked lots and lots of questions, and the city feels that it needs to have an engineer carefully review plans to make sure that circulation, sidewalks, some issues are addressed. Ken's comments were quite a bit about bringing utilities into the land that is the 16 acres that will be made available for redevelopment. And so Ken and I both are suggesting that instead of the board now trying to accept comments to send to Mass DOT, that we work with the city, we learn from the engineer who's reviewing it for the city, we really think about the 16-acre development and these proposals of where utility stubs would go, and give ourselves more time, because we don't have to get our comments in
Correct.
until September 15th or 20th. We've heard both dates.
Well,
So, yeah.
And I think with that, in order to better understand this, we should also see the comments from the city planner, director of traffic, engineer, and public utilities.
Yeah.
Because we're looking at this in a vacuum otherwise.
Yeah, and they're really developing their thinking about it, and that's why they really want an engineer to work with them on it. So, so there's a lot of work to be done between now and the 15th.
Yep.
And we definitely think that the Redevelopment Authority and the city should be on the same page, support each other's comments, and go in that way.
Okay.
So I guess what I was proposing as a different vote than was on here when the agenda originally went out was kind of agreeing on a process for us to develop and submit our comments to Mass DOT.
Are we still looking for a vote that indicates that?
I think we should.
We are? Okay.
But I'm not sure that we even know what the process is at the moment. So,
And there's no rush. I mean, I concur with what Joan is saying too. Our comments will be, I think, clearer to us and to the public if we get the input from the other
Right.
agencies. So I'd forego that vote.
well,
'Cause
yeah.
we don't have a process.
Right. So I'm also, though, concerned that September 15th is right around the corner. So, what I'm wanting to know is how do we involve board members in helping think about that? Do we have a meeting before September 15th to approve comments? I'm just not quite sure.
Well,
Yeah.
just to clarify, from the comments that we received from Bristol County Economic Development, it appears that there are other reports out there from these other city departments. We don't have those.
We don't
Right,
have-
but they haven't done them, I don't think.
That's not what the
Oh.
letter says.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The letter says, please note that these comments are designed to supplement the comments being provided by the city planner, the city director of traffic, city engineer, and city director of public utilities.
Right, but I don't think their comments are yet developed because they're waiting for an engineer to help them review everything. That's my understanding, no?
But that's not what this says. It says, these comments are designed to supplement the comments being provided by these. So that, I'm reading that as they have provided comments.
Right, but I'm quite sure that they haven't provided them and that there are a lot of people still trying to figure out what their comments will be, but he does want our comments to supplement them. But the reason that he and I are suggesting we need to talk with people in the city is we don't think they've even developed their comments yet.
Well, they have the same deadline as we do.
Right,
September
they do.
15th.
Yep.
So if that's the case, it's premature. I mean, we can do that, but I'd like to see what their comments
Right.
are.
Right.
Because that kind of directs us.
So my second comment is, you just mentioned that they want to hire an engineer to work on this project.
Right.
So if that's the case, we should also see that engineer's
That's
report
right.
before we're making it.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything
No.
for us to vote on
No, there
today.
isn't.
No, the only thing that I'm concerned about knowing is where board members want to plug themselves into that process. From what I understand, we're going to be talking with all these departments of the city. An engineer is going to be talking with all of us, presumably. And on, say, September 12th, would the board want to review comments? Or would you want to be more involved earlier in kind of hearing what people are thinking? Or, do you want to let Ken and I work with the city departments and have Joe approve it before it goes in? That's the process I'm concerned about.
Well, since we don't have a process, you gave us
Right.
3.
Yeah.
Again, as we get closer, I'd be more inclined, let me just back up. I'd be more inclined to have, I'd be a lot happier if those other reports were in
Right.
for us to review, but that not being the case, I'd be more inclined to have you and Ken monitor those other reports, and once those reports are in, then I would say, and I'm not sure we do it with well, we would do it with a special meeting, is at least, we can't come up with a finished product until those other things are done.
Right.
So I don't want to vote in advance of making sure, it could take longer than that. And if it's not in by September 15th, do you have any idea, John, if we haven't responded?
I don't see how they're
What
gonna
if we
get this done.
respond after September 15th?
I haven't seen that notice of the deadline, but I'd be
Okay.
careful about that, because if that's a hard deadline and you miss it, they may not take your comments into
Yeah,
account. So,
yeah, we don't-
I don't, did you get a notice, Sarah, with that date, or was
Yeah,
it verbal?
what gave you
or-
that?
It was really word of mouth. The letter that we received asking for comments
Right.
said to send them in 30 days,
Oh.
but the letter was dated 2 or 3 weeks before we actually got it.
Oh,
And so I'm quite sure Ken is the one who asked and got the date of either the 15th or the 20th. But part of the issue is that Ken is so concerned about none of us slowing their process down. So, if we ask for more time to give comments, we're slowing their process to get to putting it out to bid. So I think that's kind of the other issue. Even if we could go to Mass DOT and say, we need another,
I wouldn't necessarily ask for an extension, but I wouldn't necessarily ask, is September 15th a hard and fast date? I would ask that.
Right.
And that would be, in my opinion, the very first attempt. And if it's not a hard and fast date, we have time. If it is a hard and fast date, we need to have a meeting before the 15th, providing all of those other things are done.
Right, and I mean, Ken's memo was addressed to the board.
I know.
So
Right.
I think what he's saying is, this is what my comments would be as of today, but we'd have to take Ken's comments and then everything we learned from the city and combine it into a further document that we would submit.
Well,
to
that's how I'm
DOT,
reading
right?
it, because that last line that Joan mentioned, it says this document, if this is the case, is supplementing their document, which isn't completed yet.
And somebody from the Redevelopment Authority has to be authorized to submit the final product to DOT.
You know what, I think
And either
that's
the
the
chair's
vote.
doing that, or the board's gonna meet one more time and vote on the comments.
You know what, they can give me permission
But you
to
need,
act on it.
somebody has to be authorized to file them on our behalf.
Yeah, I think that would be a swifter way of getting it done. I want to start with, though, finding out about the September date to see if we have time. I'm not looking for an extension, I just want information. And so we don't slow it up, and then possibly entertain a vote, and I'll talk to Ken about it. Entertain a vote that will authorize me to sign our letter in conjunction with the reports of the other departments. Would that satisfy the requirement, John? Do you
Yeah, I
think?
mean, as long as the
Yeah.
board's comfortable with you
That's-
doing that final review, yeah.
Yeah.
The other challenging factor is that Ken is gone for 2 weeks.
No, that's not a challenge. I
Well-
mean, once you find out about September, I think you can also call the departments and see if they're on, in line
Right.
to finish those things. I mean, we have Ken's comments, so his, he doesn't have to give us any more.
Well, unless his comments
Well,
change
we'll-
somewhat
yeah, we would
when
deal
we
with
see
that
other reports.
If,
Right.
that would be an if.
Yep.
And we're dealing with facts right now.
Now,
and I
did
think,
I
Joe,
correctly
well,
hear you
we-
say that
we
the
have to
city's
be
gonna hire an
prepared.
engineer for this?
They are
Wait.
trying to,
So they haven't even engaged the engineer?
not yet.
Okay,
So I think
And
we,
today's what, the 24th?
Right,
yeah,
yes.
okay.
It's
That ain't good.
worrisome.
Wait, John's gonna come.
I think we need to be prepared to submit our comments on time,
Correct.
whether the city is or not. I think if that's all done and we can look at it and incorporate it, but no matter what, we need to submit
I
something.
would
by the deadline.
I would say you're right on that,
It's
John.
preferable to wait for them,
But
I
I still I would rather, because we could do this tomorrow for that. I mean, we can have.
Oh, no, I would wait until the last minute.
Yeah.
We should know what the deadline is, but we shouldn't miss the deadline no matter what anybody else does.
I agree,
Yeah.
I agree. But I would hope that their comments
I would hope so.
won't hurt our position, that's all. Well, of course, we can share our comments with them and see if they're in approval too. So with that being said, I'll refer back to what John was saying. We can entertain a vote to have me review and sign off after everyone has made comments, whether or not, well, to sign off and submit our comments to them, Mass DOT.
And just to respond to what Joan said, the city is working very hard to find an engineer, and they've been having a hard time finding
Okay.
someone with the time and
So that's still on
ability
the,
to do it.
that's still on the
But-
radar.
But Ken said today that he thinks they have a solution to that, and he's hopeful that they will have an engineer on board to do it.
Okay. All right, we have to deal with this issue right now, though.
Right.
With that being the case, can I entertain a motion to authorize me to review our comments and submit them to Mass DOT? If they meet the guidelines that you set, you members of the board.
Okay, so I would move to authorize Joe to, after review of our comments, submit the information to, who would that go to? DOT?
Mass DOT.
To the DOT.
Yeah.
That
And
makes
you know,
sense.
you know what I would put on that, because I want to make sure we have commitment, is by the date, by September 15th. I would put that in.
Yeah,
the-
we would
in the
need to,
motion.
Joe would need to formally reply by September 15th.
Unless that date changes.
Or by the due date.
Or by the
Just
due
in
date.
case they say it's the 20th.
Right, by the due date. in
Or
case-
by
By the due
another
date.
Okay.
date to be
All right.
made later.
Is there, thank you, John. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Joe?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, so moved, thank you. And Sarah, you want to give us project updates on the other items on the agenda?
So I've talked with Brian Tebow, who is still really interested in the Bank Street Armory. John is working on a land disposition agreement to send to him. Ken is calling him, or did call him, to talk about a TIF. He's concerned about parking. He had said that he knew he could figure out parking when he first started talking with us, so he's definitely looking for help thinking about how he's going to get parking for the Armory. So that's where we are. It's all in process. It's going in a positive direction, and we need to just keep it moving.
Good. All right, next, or any questions? No. Next, 45 Anawan Street.
So for 45 Anawan Street, we put out an RFQ to a number of appraisers. We got one back from Bonds and Company, and we would like to accept their proposal. And I just want to give a little complexity that John and I have been dealing with on this. So since we only had one proposal, but they're a firm we really want to work with, they come just highly recommended. We then put out the RFQ again. We sent it to some of the same people and said, you didn't respond the first time, are you interested? And we have Cushman and Wakefield, one that Joan had suggested, interested, but he came back with 5 questions, which were very good questions. And John and I worked together to answer them. He wanted a description of the property. He wanted the uses of the appraisal. And here's where we are a little complicated. When we put the proposal out originally, we really just focused on the fact that we need 2 appraisals for DHCD and that we want to know the value. When John and I really talked it through in terms of uses, we also want to have an appraiser give us information that will help us decide whether to take buildings down or not, which we think we've always talked for a while about an appraiser will help us kind of value that. you know, if this property didn't have these buildings, what would its highest and best use be? If it did have these buildings, what would it be?
So you want an as-is and as proposed, but we
Right.
would have to give them those instructions. They're not
we
going
would.
to tell us that.
No, we would have to. So we want to accept Bonds and Company's proposal, but we have sent them this new information that really was generated by the questions Cushman and Wakefield asked us. And it's very possible that they could say, well, we didn't quite propose with that in mind. And so we may need to, when we get to the contract, we may need to rethink their bid potentially.
So Sarah, we can't, so we wouldn't be voting now to accept this bonds.
Well, I think we do want to accept their proposal. It's just if they come back to us and say, you've really expanded the assignment, John and I foresee that we may need to, you know, consider that concern and potentially increase the fee or something. If they come back and say, oh, this is different than what we expected.
So we're not going to wait for another
No.
proposal from another firm?
Well, we are, so we need a second appraiser. So we're waiting for other appraisers to give us proposals. But these people got it in on time. They gave us a really affordable price for it compared to the prices we'd seen for the Armory. And so we really want to accept that and then, you know, see if we need to negotiate with them, which we're allowed to. And in the meantime, we hope Cushman and Wakefield and some of the others will come in with proposals. Does that make sense?
No,
No.
I'm not in favor of voting for this tonight based on what I've just been told.
Right.
Okay.
I think we need to hear back from Bose and Company and understand what their thoughts are going to be about the revised plan for this appraisal.
Okay.
And then we look to vote this in
Okay.
September.
Yeah, don't
That's my.
procurement want us to have we need a level playing field that
Exactly.
they're all responding to, so they need to be all responding to the same information, right? So
Right.
it sounds like this is new information that everyone that may respond back to needs to have and make any changes. They, you know, withdraw proposals if they need to and resubmit. But,
That's right.
Yeah, we need a level playing field for all.
So we table this
Yep.
until we're on a level playing field.
Sarah, can I just ask, I know we probably, don't want to talk about the amounts on the air, right?
We probably don't want to because we have the RFQ out there
Yep.
publicly.
Right.
Yeah, I just,
Yeah, not appropriate.
there's two different line items, a retainer and then a total amount due. Do you total those two, do you know, or?
No, I think the total is there and then then they want a retainer that's a piece of that total.
Are we still talking about Anna One Street?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Joe, I was talking about this.
Yeah, with the real estate thing, yeah.
John,
I
do you,
I don't have that.
do you want to weigh in at all on this issue?
Yeah, I think just to try to simplify it a little bit, couple of things. First, we're under the 10,000 anyway on these contracts.
Good point.
We're putting out an RFQ just to open it up, but frankly, we can use sound business practices and pick anybody we want if we're only 10. We put out an RFQ and this company submitted a bid. They submitted it based on what was out there. They didn't ask for additional information, so that's their bid. They may do the work for exactly that price. We need two, we only got one. So we went back out again.
Correct.
To get the second one. When we did the second round, some of those bidders asked additional questions that weren't asked in the first. But everybody in both bids has been given the exact same information. It's just there were 2 rounds of this, and there were more questions in round 2 than round 1.
But not by them.
Right.
They just never, when they put in their bid, they just didn't ask the same questions that the bidders in round two asked. But the information provided in the RFQ was the same. And anybody could have asked any questions if they wanted to. So I'm okay waiting another month. I don't think it's a big deal. But they may just do the work for the price they gave us. They may not even question it. We're anticipating they may question it, but they may just go ahead and do the work for that price. We really don't know. But we can wait to get the second one and just do them both at the same
Yeah,
time.
I'd prefer to get the second one and understand it
Yeah.
fully.
Another month, I don't think is gonna make a difference, Joe,
No.
really. We're not closing on this thing till next year at the
That's
earliest,
correct.
so. But I just wanted to be clear, there were 2 rounds, and we are under 10, so we have a lot of flexibility on how we award these contracts.
And we'll get a response back from Bonds and Company.
Well, they may not put in a
Oh,
second.
we don't have to go
Right.
to them, that's
See,
right.
I
They've already submitted their proposal. Now, they
Right.
could submit a new one in this new round if they want to, but that's up to them whether they want to.
Well, I didn't ask them to. You and I talked
No,
about it,
no,
and
no.
I sent them the information that we had sent to other appraisers.
Yeah.
And said, we, appreciated your bid, we're bringing it to the board for a vote.
They've never-
and
they've
here's
never said
more-
anything about their price is
Here's more
not valid or-
information.
Yeah.
But she was on vacation until Monday, so I don't know that she's really reviewed it. And
Did she come back this Monday or
yeah,
next Monday?
this Monday.
Okay.
But this appraisal proposal is just for an as-is market value appraisal, but from what I've heard, it sounds like with Cushman and Wakefield, we're talking about an as-is and an as-proposed with buildings coming down. Am I correct in that?
We gotta ask the same thing.
Right.
Well, it's not that we, right, when we wrote to them and answered their questions, we answered them with the potential of buildings coming down, but that question was never asked by Bonds. I don't know, as John said, we don't know that it's going to change their bid. And the piece that I think is, we're trying to be fair, they came in with their bid, a very good bid, right on time. They were the only one who actually responded to our first RFQ. So I think, we need to talk with them. And, John feels, and I agree with him, that we should just proceed ahead. We've given them more information. Say, are you ready to enter in, if you agree, we could just say, are you ready to enter into a contract? And then if they have a concern, they didn't foresee these answers to questions, then maybe we bring it back.
I think we should just hold and wait for them to respond.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think another month's gonna matter. I
No.
really don't.
No, it shouldn't. I feel bad because if we're gonna end up with them anyway, but it's the right thing to do. Okay. Okay, we'll forego that vote. And then, Sarah, the downtown and waterfront walk assessment.
Yeah, we had a number of people walk, based,
Give the
Yeah, I'll
the
talk
board
about it.
what that's
So-
all about.
So basically, Walk Boston and Mass Inc. were funded to do walk audits with 5 communities in the state, all that are involved in transit-oriented development. So the fact that we have the commuter rail coming was a reason that we were asked if we wanted to participate. And we originally went out and took them around the Route 79 project and where the commuter rail station is going, and considered doing a walk assessment in that area. The Walk Boston and Mass Inc. talked with us about it and said, it's just really difficult to do it when so much of this is conceptual. And a walk audit is usually people going out and seeing what's actually there and talking about how that may need to change. So we ended up deciding to instead basically focus on the issue of linking downtown to the waterfront, which is really of interest to us since we have two urban renewal plans, one for the waterfront and one for downtown, and that comes up all the time. How do we get people to really visit both? And so we walked South Main from really this corner here at City Hall down to Columbia, over to Water Street by Liberty Utilities, up Anawan and Pecasset. And another route some people took was to instead go down farther and walk up Central. And there was a lot of discussion, and we think the report may come back with thoughts about if we're creating these linkage streets, is Central a better linkage than Pecasset? And because the thinking is that the routes that get kind of proposed are routes that you hope will be improved. So we were looking at sidewalks and crosswalks, and were there parks, were there shade trees? You know, how did it really feel to do this walk? And we identified all kinds of things. There were assets and there were problems that over time should be addressed. So what we expect will happen is we'll get a report and we'll, you know, kind of feed that into city planning as projects are being identified. We can point out things that came out in the audit that really could be prioritized. And the hope with these audits is that they lead to funding for things that should be done. And they are really useful when you're asking for change to say, well, this walk audit identified that issue. So one of the things I found interesting is, just as an example, the trees along all those streets have big indentations, big kind of rectangular areas of dirt that drop off. So if you're in a wheelchair, you could be going down the sidewalk and kind of struggle with the way it just drops. Or if you have a baby carriage, that could be an issue. And they're just not very attractive. People throw things in them. And so we learned that the city had considered, people talk about putting mulch, but if you put mulch, the rain will spread it all around. So some of them have grates. And if you put grates over them, it makes it more attractive and it keeps anyone from falling in there. So that was, I think, one suggestion that might come up. And I have no idea how much grates cost, but you know, that's the kind of thing that got identified. So we will wait for the assessment to come back, and I'll share it with you.
Okay.
Okay.
And 301 South Main Street?
So 301 South Main Street is at the corner of Rodman and South Main, and it's a building that is really...
Is that the one you and I
yes.
spoke about today?
Can I just give you one
Please,
clarification?
yes.
It's 308 South Main.
Oh. I
That's
don't know.
important.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know.
We don't want to identify
No,
incorrect property.
we
but
don't.
Here's the-
308 for
this is
the
what we're
record.
talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, 308.
Sorry, I don't know
That's
how
okay.
I got 301. So it's been in tax title for, I think, a few years. It owes, the taxes owed on it are around $350,000, which makes it very difficult for it to go out to an auction, and you know, it's questionable whether anyone is going to pay that.
That's
So-
also the one that it has damage
Yes.
falling off of the roof or something, yeah.
Well, I don't know that it's
Well, I
falling
don't know where it's falling.
off the roof. There's, I think, one across the street that has the fence and the things falling.
Across the street?
Yeah, across South Main.
Okay, good.
And that one, Ken's been working with someone who's interested in developing it.
Good.
But challenges have arisen with the structure. So, what?
308 is in tax title, right?
Yes. And Matt Thomas is dealing with it, and he's very interested in talking with people about what route to go, what's a good solution. And Ken and I decided to call for a meeting and see if we can get Matt Thomas, the building inspector, the fire inspector, probably Bill Kinney and us, to just talk about what is the condition of the building. We don't think people know, that people haven't been in to really inspect it. And that really is of concern to Ken, because how can you be deciding what strategy to use if you don't really know the condition? So we don't know where this will lead. We just think we should have this meeting and see where that goes. And we would then come back and tell you about it.
Okay.
Okay, good. And we'll know who the owner is by that time, right? Because there's been several.
Yeah,
So we
Matt
want-
Thomas does know who the
Okay,
owner is.
Okay. All right, good. Any other questions of Sarah that we haven't covered? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to approve the July 28th executive session minutes and not return to open session.
I move we proceed into executive session and not return.
Okay?
That's a roll call vote, too.
Yeah. Is there a second for John's motion?
Second. to
Second
John's
by
motion.
John. Okay, now we'll take a roll call vote. Joan Maderas,
Yes.
Joe Marshall, yes.
Louis Gonzalez, yes.
Yes.
Ann Kane, yes.
Okay, so that's so moved. We are now in executive session.